All right, skill number 10, solving linear inequalities in one variable. Directions to solve. So like solving equations, you want to get the variable by itself on one side of the inequality sign. The only issue here is that if any of the work you do to both sides of the inequality sign involve multiplying or dividing with a negative number, you must switch the sign to keep it accurate. So first problem, x plus 5 is less than or equal to negative 8. To get x by itself, I can subtract 5 to both sides. Subtraction doesn't require any sign switching, so I have x, the less than or equal to stays x less than or equal to, and negative 8 minus 5 is negative 13. So my solution is all values of x less than or equal to negative 13. Letter B, negative 4n is greater than or equal to 16. To get n by itself, I would divide by negative 4, and dividing by a negative requires that I switch the sign. So these negative 4's simplify, leaving thus n. The greater than or equal to becomes less than or equal to, and 16 divided by negative 4 is negative 4. So my solution is n is less than or equal to negative 4. Next one, x is being divided by negative 3, and that's greater than negative 5. To get the inverse of dividing by negative 3 is multiplying by negative 3. So I would multiply both sides of the inequality by negative 3. And if I multiply by negative 3, that requires that I switch that sign. So these 3's cancel out, the negative 3's. I have x by itself, but the greater than becomes less than, and negative 3 times negative 5 is a positive 15. So my solution is x is less than 15. Next one, we have variables on both sides. So get all the variables to one side. 3x and 2x, I choose to take a minus 2x to both sides to keep what's in front of the x positive. So 3x minus 2x is x. So I have x plus 8 is greater than or equal to negative 6. To get x by itself, I can subtract 8 to both sides. So I get x is greater than or equal to negative 6 minus 8 is negative 14. I didn't do any work in that problem that required sign switching, so my solution is x is greater than or equal to negative 14. Last one, parentheses, n plus 3 is not really worth that much in the problem. It's multiplied by negative 5, so negative 5 times n, it's really negative 5n, and negative 5 times 3 is really negative 15, which I can write as minus 15. And then less than 11 minus n. To get all the n's on one side, I choose to add 5n to both sides, because that is going to keep me with a positive coefficient of n, a positive number in front of n when I do this next step. This makes 0, so I have negative 15. Adding doesn't change the sign, so it stays as less than, and this is 11, and minus n, or minus 1n plus 5n, ends up being plus 4n. Then to get 4n by itself, do minus 11 to both sides. So I take minus 11 to both sides, no sign changing there. So this is minus 26 is less than, or negative 26 is less than 4n. And I'll divide by 4. So I take the negative 26 and divide by 4. And I take the 4n divided by 4 to get n by itself. No sign changing by dividing by that 4. So my answer is negative 26 over 4, which can be simplified to negative 13 halves, is less than n. But more common to write the variable first, so instead of writing it as negative 13 halves is less than n, I can write the n first. If you read it from kind of from right to left, n is greater than negative 13 halves. If you want to make that a mixed number, you can. I'll leave it as that. So n is greater than negative 13 halves. Alright, study those 5 examples, and then here are 5 for you to try. Copy these down, work them out. Remember, you're solving for the variable. Be careful when you switch that sign. Pause the video, and then when you're done, play the rest of the video and check to see how accurate you were. Alright, I'm assuming you finished these 5, and here are the solutions so you can check your work. For the first one, x minus 3 is greater than negative 10. To get x by itself, I'd add 3 to both sides. After I add 3, no sign changing by adding 3, so I get x, I add greater than, and negative 10 plus 3 is negative 7. So there's my solution. X is greater than negative 7. For letter B, to get y by itself, I have 5 times it, so I'll divide both sides of the inequality by 5. Dividing by 5 does not require a sign change, so 5 and 5 simplify, leaving just y. It stays as less than or equal to, and negative 15 divided by 5 is negative 3. There's my solution. Y is less than or equal to -3. For letter C, n is being divided by -4. So if I want to get n by itself, I would multiply by -4. So I take both sides of the problem and multiply by -4. Multiplying by a negative requires I switch the inequality sign. So these -4's simplify, leaving n. This greater than or equal to becomes less than or equal to, and -4 times 12 is -48. So my solution is n is less than or equal to -48. Letter D, variables on both sides. I'm going to subtract 4x, keep a positive number in front of the x after I do the step. So this makes 0. I get -1 is less than 5x minus 4x is x plus 3. No sign change from subtraction. Now I subtract 3 to both sides to get x by itself. -1 minus 3 is -4. The less than sign stays the same. And I have x. So -4 is less than x, which can also be written from right to left. If you read it that way, x is greater than -4. More common to put the variable first when you read inequalities. It's a little more descriptive, and it makes more sense to think of x as being greater than -4 than to think of -4 as smaller than whatever x can be. Last one, letter E. There's parentheses to take care of first, so rewrite the problem without parentheses. So copy everything down except for this becomes -2 times x, which is -2x, and -2 times a -4 is an 8. So plus 8. Now I want to get all the x's to one side. I'm going to add 2x to both sides. Instead of subtracting x to both sides, that keeps a positive number in front of the x. X and 2x is 3x, plus 6 is greater than, and this has 8. No change in the sign from adding. Now I'll get 3x by itself. Subtract 6 to both sides. So I have 3x is greater than 2. No change in the sign because I subtracted the 6. And now divide by 3 to get x by itself. So 3x divided by 3, 2 divided by 3. Dividing by 3 does not change the sign, so my solution is x is greater than 2/3. So anything bigger than 2/3 is the solution to that original inequality. It works. So it's x is greater than 2/3. And that is the end of skill number 10.